Hi. Happy Mother's Day. Hello. I apologize for the late start. I was waiting for the little one to take his nap. So, went screaming and yelling in the background. But happy Mother's Day. Hope you've been having a good day. Or maybe not. That's actually why I wanted to do the live stream today, because Mother's Day can be complex for a lot of people. So I thought it'd be a good day to talk about motherhood and Black motherhood specifically. So, yeah. So I wasn't expecting too many people to be on this live. I'm sure most folks are out and about, spending time with their moms or maybe avoiding their parents or, just doing other things. But I still wanted to come on here today. And I didn't do too much today either. Well, I had made plans. I was going to do all these things. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to a movie, out to eat, blah, blah, blah. But then I was just like, I don't know. I think because I have a 3-day training I have to do this week. So I'm going to be doing a lot of running around, work training. So I was just like, I'm just going to have a chill day today, just relax. But I did go out and treat myself to a plant. Because my son, he's only 3 years old, so he can't buy me anything yet. So I won't be getting any flowers from him anytime soon. And he's not in daycare, so I'm not even. So I knew I wasn't going to even get one of those macaroni flowers. They always make those kids make those macaroni art pieces for their parents. So I was like, I'm going to treat myself to a plant. So I bought this plant. And I believe it's one of those plants you cannot kill, because I kill plants. I do not have a green thumb. And like I said, I'll be out of town for 3 days. So I was like, this one should survive while I'm gone for a few days. So I treated myself to a little plant. Isn't it cute? It's the cutest little plant. I'm trying to get more into plants and buying plants and, things like that. So pretty excited, especially with the summer coming up. So yeah, got me myself a little plant. And when we were at the store, we were walking down the aisles, and there was like literally carts full of wine they had discounted. I was like, what? Because they knew it was Mother's Day. They knew we needed our wine, right? So I did treat myself to a bottle of red wine. Mm. And plus I figured, I'm grown. Well, it's funny. Actually, a couple of days ago, there was a post on Facebook. And, the whole joke now has become about moms depending heavily on wine to deal with parenting. We're called wine moms. And so the post was like, put down the bottle. It's about, smashing patriarchy and fighting for women's rights as mothers and, et cetera, et cetera. And I agree with all of that, but I still need my liquor. I still need my wine. I don't care what noise. So, and like I said, I'm grown. I'm actually an older mom. I had my son when I was 41. I'm 45 now. So, parenting at this age requires a lot of wine. Because I don't have young bones. I have old bones. And, it's so funny because I never wanted children. And actually the joke with a lot of my friends is that I was like a bachelor guy, because the way I lived my life, was like a single person. I was always out and about. I traveled a lot. I was always going out to eat, going out, you know, for the majority of my life, I was a single person. So having a child at my age, my 40s, has been a big, big shift. It changes your life a lot having a child. So that's why I was encouraged, especially younger women, to think very deeply about it because it will be a big shift in your lives. And actually, that's why I wanted to do a book chat today because, Mother's Day. Mother's Day is weird to me actually because, you know, it romanticizes like mothers. You see all these shout outs to mothers. You see all this love giving to mothers today. But really, our society does. Yeah, the rest of the year, we don't really treat mothers all that well. Actually, treat mothers like crap, and this is regardless of race, really. But it's even 10 times worse if you're a woman of color, and about 50 times worse if you're a Black mother, right? Black mother, excuse me, Mother's Day is just always been kind of weird to me because it's like, we do all this, oh, mom, love mom, and it's very romanticizing mothers and motherhood and all this stuff. But really, we live in a society that does not support mothers at all. Or even your choice of whether or not you want to be a mother, right? Like we just saw recently with the laws passed in Georgia, right? So really no respect to women and regarding whether or not you want to be a mother. And then if you do decide to become a mother, you're still not respected. So it's like you're degraded if you do decide to have an abortion or terminate your pregnancy. But if you decide to go have your child, especially if you're single, and especially, like I said, if you are a woman of color, and especially if you are a Black mother in particular if you're a single Black mother, you're disparaged in the society. So that's why Mother's Day is weird to me. It's like, and like I said, because I went so long without having children and because I never really wanted children, now I have this child and it's just weird. Like when I was out and about today, people were like, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day. It was just weird because it's like these white people who probably normally would be like, not being very polite to me or whatever, because, the thing I've noticed about since becoming a mother, I've always been disrespected as a Black woman, particularly as a darker skinned Black woman, you're just disrespected in this society. But becoming a mother, I know especially that disrespect went up like 20 times. And I think because there's a lot of connotations around Black women as mothers and Black motherhood, a lot of stereotypes around us as Black mothers. So, it's really interesting. So today has been kind of interesting to have people be like, hey, Happy Mother's Day, from these white people who normally probably would be like looking at me with disdain, or even from other Black people, particularly Black men, saying Happy Mother's Day, Happy Day. Well, they would be like, hey, Happy Mother's Day, Mama, what you doing today, Mama, whatever. But, actually that tends to be just, unfortunately, there tends to be just as much judgment within the Black community against single Black mothers as outside, really, so really, so it's just interesting to me. So that's why I wanted to talk today, because I read I should say, actually, I listened to a really good audiobook recently by Dani McClain, and I tried to pull it up on my tablet, but it's not working. And maybe you can see it on my phone, but it's called We Live for the We, the Political Power of Black Motherhood. And so in the book, she just talks about the unique challenges and obstacles of Black motherhood and the things Black mothers face, particularly single Black mothers. She's a single Black mother. And she actually got the title from a friend who told her that she said that she tells her daughter all the time, and I'm going to be looking at my notes because I knew I was going to be drinking. So I was like, I better have my, my notes to the side and everything so I don't lose track. But her friend, Kat Brooks, who's an organizer in Oakland, told Dani McClain that she tells her daughter, she says, I tell my daughter all the time, we don't live for the I, we live for the we. And I thought it's probably just another way of saying, it takes a village to raise a child, right? That we often say in the Black community. And Dani McClain does note Black feminist writer and sociologist Patricia Hill Collins. And I tried to find my book. Patricia Hill Collins wrote the book Black Feminists in Thought, and I consider it my Bible. I love that book. I tried to find it, but I've moved so many times within the last few months. I don't know where I put that book. I was looking for it, but if you saw it, you probably would laugh because literally, like, the pages are like falling. I've literally had that book for like 15 years now, maybe more. Like, I think as soon as she published it, that's my Bible. I consider that my Bible. But it's a really great book that talks about the unique experiences, the unique lived experiences of Black women in our culture. And so, but basically, the title, We Don't Live for the We. So Dani McClain was citing Patricia Hill Collins because in her book, she has, I wish I could have found my book, but in the book, she has a chapter on Black motherhood. And she has a section called Other Mothering. And Other Mothering is a system of care through which Black mothers are accountable to and work on behalf of all Black children in a particular community. So that ties into the title that we don't live for the I, we live for the we. And this idea of other mothering, that's very popular in the Black community. We talk a lot about in the Black community about fictive kin, having fictive kin. So someone you call your mama, but she really isn't your mama. She's not, usually has no blood relation to you. Or maybe, she's your auntie or even your grandmother or something like that. But other mothering is very popular in the Black community. We often have, a lot of times, when the biological mother cannot, for whatever reason, cannot do her duties as a parent, other mothers often step in place to kind of, care and nurture that child until the mother can get it together, or sometimes she doesn't. And that kind of ties back into what I was saying earlier about, today, for a lot of people, Mother's Day is very hard, whether your mother passed, or for a lot of moms, or for a lot of people, they have moms who are abusive or neglectful or just not very good people, narcissistic. I hear that a lot from a lot of people saying they have very narcissistic parents or mothers. So oftentimes you have other Black women in the community who will take on those roles as a mother to you. So other mothering is very popular in our community. So she touched on that. And so, the book is really good. I would say I would give it an A-, just because the book is written from, trying to read my notes here. The book is written from a place of privilege. And to be fair, the author does acknowledge this. So, for example, she talks about, even though she did have a single mother while she was growing up, she basically calls herself a self-proclaimed Cosby kid. So she grew up fairly well, even with a single mom. And from what I read, but from what I listened, because I did an audiobook, her family was very close-knit. Her mom's side of the family was very close-knit and helped her a lot with raising her and stuff. So it kind of was able to provide that foundation, even though she didn't have her father in her life, and her mom was a single mom, it provided enough foundation and resources and support that she was able to live a middle-class lifestyle while growing up, because she talks about having a pool in the backyard and taking all these trips and everything. So that's why she calls herself, when she was a kid, a Cosby kid. So definitely a place of privilege. And then she also goes on later in the book to talk about how she was having trouble deciding what kind of nanny she wanted for her child. And, that's not a reality for most Black mothers. So growing up as a Cosby kid is not a reality for most Black women. And being able to look for a nanny is not a reality for most Black mothers. And then also, too, a lot of the sources and people she interviews and cites in the book a lot of them are celebrities, or her celebrity friends, or even the ones who are grassroots organizers. They're kind of like popular or well-known grassroots organizers. So her circle of people that she knows, they're well-off people for the most part. They're celebrities, probably rich people. At the very least, it sounds like she's probably upper middle class. Just listening to what she was from her childhood and what she's able to provide, because it's definitely written from a lens of privilege as a Black woman. But like I said, she does acknowledge privilege in the book. So, and so that was only my one issue with the book. And so I wish there would have been more like just everyday Black women, because like I said, the people she's citing in the book are, more, are celebrities and things like that, or, maybe more educated, or, reflect her circle of people. So it'd been nice to see just from everyday Black women, working class and the poor working class Black women. But also, to be fair too, that the book is more about her experiences as a mother. So she's just writing about her experience as a single Black mother. And so that's going to reflect her life and her lived experience, which is more privileged. And going back to the topic of her co-parenting with her child's father, I kind of have a little bit of an issue of like how she talks about Black fathers in the book. She's very kind to Black fathers in the book, which is good, and I understand, because, Black fathers and Black fatherhood is so disparaged in our community. And because from what it sounds like, she has a pretty good relationship with her child's father. So she wants to represent, Black fathers in the best light as she can, right? And so, like, for example, she cites the often cited study of Black fathers being more involved in their child's life than other men of different races. But I kind of mixed emotions about that, because I do feel like it glossed over a little bit of the fact that the reality is the majority of Black mothers are doing it alone and don't get a lot of support from their child's father. And we do need to hold more Black fathers accountable to the fact that they aren't supporting their Black, the parent, they aren't supporting the mothers of their children as much as they should be doing. So I did have a little issue with that. But like I said, once again, I understand she's trying to represent Black fatherhood in the positive light, and because of her own positive relationship with her child's father, she wanted to be fair. But I wish she would have talked a little bit more about like the struggles of like Black women who don't get that support, right? And how it does hurt us overall as a Black community, as in the Black community. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit because, this liquor is probably getting to me. And I'm worried the kid might wake up, Let's see, what else? I'm gonna look at my notes here. So in the book, she does go through the different stages of being a Black mother. So the chapters are broken down to, the first chapter looks at birth. The second chapter looks at home. The third chapter looks at family. The fourth chapter looks at play. The fifth, belonging. The sixth, school. The seventh, body. The eighth, spirituality. And the ninth, power. So for me, all the chapters are really good and interesting. But for me, the one I really liked was the one on school. And it's probably because I'm an educator, although my focus tends to be adult education. I have my degree in higher education, so I work with adult learners. So, but since having my child, I have become a little bit more interested in K through 12 education. And I thought she brought up some really good points about how basically the educational system, as probably the majority of us Black people know, is very anti-Black, and it isn't a very safe space for Black children. Of course, you have the whole school to prison pipeline, And then a lot of schools that are in predominantly Black area or have predominantly Black students or in predominantly Black areas have very, little resources, horrible teachers, schools are crumbling. So, and then she also talked about and it made me think about, because I've been struggling, what do I want to do as far as my son's education? Like I said, he doesn't go to daycare right now. He has a babysitter. And I've been very hesitant because, I would qualify for childcare because I'm a working class mother. Yeah, and assistance. But I was just like, I don't know if I want to put him in there because I just have a lot of fears. The educational system is very anti-Black. And then, it's just a scary thing. And she also brought up a good point because, of course, we as a Black parent and mother, you worry about, of course, white teachers, because I believe like 80% of K through 12 teachers are white women. But she also brought up a really good point that you also have to have concern about even having Black teachers as well, because often the rhetoric is like, oh, if we bring in more Black teachers, especially Black male teachers for Black, young Black boys, that will help it be better for Black students. But I thought she made a good point that isn't necessarily true either. Like, because there are a lot of Black people who are anti-Black too. You know what I mean? They're dealing with a lot of anti-Blackness within themselves too, or they're also or they engage in respectability politics, right? So, and especially you see this a lot with older Black teachers, a lot of the baby boomer Black teachers. They engage a lot in respectability politics. And she had an example of, I believe it was her friend's daughter who went to a school, and she thought it would be good because the teacher was a Black woman, but her daughter would come home just really upset and crying, was just really having a hard time. And she was like, I don't, she was thinking, well, this is this Black woman, I thought it'd be better for her than having this white woman teacher. But it turns out that the Black woman, she was being very hard on the daughter. And basically, she was engaging in a lot of respectability politics, like, oh, you need to be acting this way, you need to be talking this way, you need to dress this way. So it shows that even having Black teachers sometimes can be just as problematic, because a lot of times they too are also engaging in anti-Blackness and are too just being as oppressive and discouraging to Black children as well. So really, I thought she made a great point that really, regardless of race, if you're a parent, you need to be involved and know about the teacher, learn about the teacher, get involved in the school, because it really doesn't matter the race of the person. Yes, it probably will be worse if they are a white person, because they absolutely lack any kind of cultural knowledge about Black people. We've been here 400 years, and white people still don't even know basics about Black people. It's just ridiculous, really. And they constantly want you to educate you. It's like, well, like I tell people, if you want to know something, go Google. It's 2019. I'm not gonna educate you about anything at this point. But a lot of times you have to be just as careful with a lot of Black teachers too, because a lot of them engage in a lot of anti-Blackness themselves too. So I really like the chapter about school, because it made me think a lot about that, with my son, and what will I do regarding his education in the future. And I've been seriously thinking about homeschooling, because I just feel like, or trying to, do something with his babysitter, because he's already, my babysitter, she's fabulous. She's this queer Black woman. She's amazing. I love that, because he's learning about different, diverse people, diverse, communities. And she's taught him his ABCs, his 1, 2, 3s. And she takes him out for lots of field trips. They go to the science museum. They go to the library. He just got his first library card a few weeks ago. He was so excited. She's just a fabulous woman. I love her. And so I'm like, well, maybe try to do something with her where we can, regarding his education, because I feel like he would do better just with her, as opposed to being placed into the school system, which is very anti-Black. very can be very oppressive to Black children, especially my son. He's so curious. He asks a lot of questions. He's he's a little hyper in a good way because he's very curious. He likes to learn. He likes to observe things. He likes to, he's and I worry about him being in school and that being used against him. You're right, like him being funneled into maybe special education. That happens a lot. And actually, I did want to share about an article I came across, and I haven't had time to read it yet. I've skimmed through it a little bit, but it's called "How Black Genius is Misdiagnosed as Disability," and it talks about how Black children who are very intelligent are oftentimes are tracked into special education because white people or whoever in charge feels like, well, something's wrong with them if they're too smart or too curious or ask too many questions, or because a lot of times with kids who are very intelligent and very smart, they get bored very easily. They do things really quickly, so they get bored, so they just kind of wander around the classroom and stuff. So a lot of times that is held against kids, and especially against Black children. And like I said, I haven't had a chance to read the article, but just skimming it, it looks really good. So I'll put a link in the description box of this video to read it. But yeah, it's called "How Black Genius is Misdiagnosed as Disability." I can't talk today. It's probably all that liquor I'm having. And it actually made me think of I could have sworn I read somewhere that happened to Nina Simone, that people thought she wasn't very intelligent. But of course we know Nina Simone is a musical genius goddess, right? But I believe like at some point, because I think she went to mostly a white school, that they were trying to say that she was, quote unquote slow, right? We don't really use that term, but back then, or that she had a low IQ and stuff because she was so brilliant. So I'm guessing she probably got very bored very easily in class. She probably, just was doing other things, or probably was so beyond her years, in the way she articulated herself, in the way she expressed herself. And so it got diagnosed as like something was wrong with her. And that happens a lot with Black children, that if they're very smart or very creative or very, curious, it's used against them. So I really like the chapter on school. And it made me think a lot about like, what do I want to do regarding my son's education. See, I'm trying not to make this video too long. It's a pretty good book. The only other issue I had with it, I wish she would have done more about self-care as a Black mother, because she talks a lot. The book is like, when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, everything she was saying, I'm like, yes, because everything she talked about, I've been through as a Black mother. And so it would have been nice. In the chapter 8, I believe, chapter 9, I believe, in the power chapter, it is touched on a little bit about self-care, particularly, how like a lot of Black mothers are often by default wind up being organizers in their community, because if we don't speak up for our children, no one else will. So a lot of times Black mothers by default just become community organizers. And so she touched a little bit. She interviewed a couple of people who talked about self-care a little bit, but I think it would have been really nice to have a whole other chapter about self-care and mental health, because being a Black mother in society, it can be very, very stressful. And, motherhood in general is very stressful. And a lot of times, a lot of women regret motherhood. Should I've done this? Because like I was saying earlier, despite today being Mother's Day and all this romanticizing the mothers and all these accolades we are giving to mothers and stuff, really we don't support mothers at all in this culture. So a lot of times women will regret that. And I remember a few years ago there was an article, and I pulled it up, called I regret having children. And it was mothers, mostly majority white mothers, who talked about like, wishing maybe they shouldn't have been mothers, or maybe they should have waited longer, or maybe they should just if they did have one, just stay with one if they had more than one child. because, becoming a mother, it really does change your life. And it is a big sacrifice. And yes, children are wonderful and they're cute and they're sweet and all of that, but it's a lot of work. And, like I said, we live in a society like we don't have any kind of like universal child care. Like, if nothing else, if I always strongly encourage younger Black women to think very hard and deeply about having a child. And if they still like, oh, I want to do it, I'm like, well, if nothing else, think about how you're going to pay for childcare, because childcare, and that's something else I wish she would have talked about in the book. But once again, because she was writing from a place of privilege, it probably was something she didn't really think about, because if she's someone who's looking for a nanny, right, she can afford, she's beyond like childcare needs or resources or anything like that. So, but yeah, it's a big shift in your life becoming a mother. It's not to say that you can't do anything else once you become a mother, but it does change things a lot. And so a lot of women in this article, I regret having children, talked about like they wish they hadn't did it, and if they could do it over, they wouldn't do it. And of course, people flipped out when these women admitted to like not really liking motherhood that much, because the reality is sometimes you might not like your kid. Like, you might love them, but you might not like their personality. Like, so, it's funny because I was thinking like, I cannot imagine Black mothers being able to saying this. And if people went crazy about or flipped out about these white women saying that they regretted having children, I can only imagine if Black women said that, because for Black women, it's complex, because we know we live in a society that this has disdain for our children as is, that dislike our children as is, and we live in a society where people justify murders, police murders of children. Like, there's no reason why anyone should justify the death of Tamir Rice. Like, there's no justification for that. But a lot of white people have justified killing a 12-year-old playing in a park. So we live in society. We know we're in a society that hates our children as is. So for a lot of Black mothers, there may be a hesitation or, a fear of being very truthful about the hardships of motherhood and the stress of motherhood, being reluctant to like, being like, to be honest, like, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish, motherhood really isn't for me. Because that's the thing about it. Like, you're not going to know until you have the kid, right? And then once the kid is here, it's kind of like, well, they didn't ask to be here. So most women just can go along with the flow, because, at this point, what can you do? So you don't really know until you have the kid. But for a lot of women, it's like, well, I wish I didn't have this kid. And for Black mothers, it can be even more difficult to admit that, like, hey, this really wasn't for me. Maybe I should have, because we know we live in a society that already dislikes our children anyway. So we don't want to put it out there like, oh, I wish I hadn't had this child. So yeah. Black motherhood can be very, very complex. I'm trying to think what else was in the article or in the book. But yeah, this video is already longer than I planned it to be. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. Overall, I think she did a pretty good job of talking about the unique obstacles of being a Black mother and Black motherhood. Once again, she writes from a place of privilege. And there's some things I wish she would have talked about a little bit more, like issues of self-care and the stress of being a Black mother. It is touched on a little bit in the power chapter, a little bit, but I wish she would have explored a little bit more, because I understand her agenda. She wants to show the positivity of Black mothers in motherhood and the power of a Black motherhood, right? Like, we are a big force in our communities, but sometimes that can be also like stifling to Black mothers, and only showing us as these powerful, strong women. We're also very vulnerable. We also get stressed out. We also sometimes regret becoming a parent. We also sometimes, need lots of, space for self-care. We need sometimes to go talk to a therapist. Sometimes we're having mental health issues, et cetera, et cetera. So, but overall, I thought it was a good book, and I definitely recommend it for all the Black mamas out there. So yeah, I know I was rambling because my liquor's getting to me, but it's good. It's like a sweet red wine. So I wish you all a good Mother's Day. And if you do have some issues around this day, I hope you're able to engage in some self-care and just have some space to kind of reflect on, if you are a mother, like what is motherhood? What does motherhood mean to you? And if you haven't had a good situation with a mother or mother figure in your life, finding space to kind of come to terms with that, I guess. So yeah. So have a great day. And take care of yourself. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.